The film opens in a small neighborhood in Mexico, where a young boy named Santiago plays soccer with his friends in a dusty field surrounded by small houses and dry air. He moves with ease and precision, his love for the game written all over his face. The ball is worn, the goalposts are nothing more than sticks in the dirt, but none of that matters to him. That night, everything changes. Santiago's family joins a group of people preparing to cross the border into the United States. They move quietly under the moonlight, trying to make it across before the border patrol spots them. As they run, Santiago loses grip of his soccer ball. He hesitates, wanting to go back for it, but his father yanks him forward, shouting for him to keep running. Years pass. Santiago is now a teenager living in Los Angeles with his father, Hernan, and his grandmother. He works as a gardener alongside his father, mowing lawns in rich neighborhoods. Later that day, after finishing his shift, Santiago rushes to a local field for a league match. He juggles between jobs and games, never missing a chance to play. The match is intense, and Santiago stands out immediately. He dribbles through defenders, reading the field with sharp instinct. He scores a stunning goal, but once the game ends, Santiago returns to reality, a long night shift at a Chinese restaurant, washing dishes and taking out trash. A few days later, during another match against a rival team, someone new is watching from the sidelines. Glenn Foy, a retired English football scout living in Los Angeles, notices Santiago's raw ability. He watches how the boy moves with the ball, how he sees opportunities others don't. After the game, Glenn walks up to him, introducing himself as a scout. He tells Santiago he has real potential and promises to bring a professional agent to his next game to watch him play. The next day, Glenn visits Barry, a local sports agent, and tells him about the kid he just saw, a natural talent wasting away in neighborhood leagues. He begs Barry to come to the next game that weekend. Barry agrees, but half-heartedly. Elsewhere, Santiago brings up Glenn's offer to his father. Hernan immediately shuts it down. He tells his son that dreams like that are worthless, that the only way to survive in America is through hard work and multiple jobs, not chasing fantasies. Santiago doesn't argue, but the disappointment is visible in his face. A few days later, the big game arrives. Santiago plays his heart out in front of Glenn, who's sitting in the stands waiting with hope that Barry will show up. When Glenn looks around, Barry is nowhere to be seen. He calls him, only to find Barry lounging at a pool party, having completely forgotten about the boy. Frustrated, Glenn decides to help Santiago himself. Despite the setback, Santiago dominates the field. He scores the winning goal and walks off drenched in sweat, unaware that this game will change his life. That night, Glenn calls Eric, the head coach of Newcastle United in England, and pleads with him to give Santiago a shot. Eric is hesitant, but Glenn's persistence pays off. He agrees to let the boy come for a trial. The next day, Glenn shares the news with Santiago and his grandmother. They're both speechless and overjoyed. Glenn gives him his contact details and tells him to call once he lands in England, as Santiago now has a shot at his dream. Over the next few months, he works non-stop, saving every dollar he can to afford the flight. But when he comes home one evening, his savings are gone. He knows immediately that his father took the money. Hernan tells him again to stop wasting his time on impossible dreams. Furious and heartbroken, Santiago storms into his room, refusing to speak to him. A few days later, Santiago comes home tired from work when his grandmother calls him over. She quietly hands him plane tickets to England and tells him she believes in him, urging him to leave before his father returns. Santiago is more than grateful, and his grandmother gives him her necklace as a good luck charm. Hours later, Santiago lands in London. He calls Glenn, who arranges a train to Newcastle and meets him at the station. Glenn welcomes him into his home, promising to help him settle in. The next morning, Glenn drives Santiago to the Newcastle United training ground. The massive stadium and lush green fields are unlike anything he's ever seen. They meet Eric, the head coach, who looks skeptical but allows Santiago to suit up. In the locker room, Santiago secretly uses his inhaler, something he hasn't told anyone about. Soon, he's on the muddy pitch in pouring rain, struggling to keep up with the physical fast-paced English style of play. He slips, misses passes, and gets shoved around, but flashes of brilliance still show through. Eric quietly observes for a while before leaving, unimpressed but thoughtful. After the session, Santiago showers alone, disappointed in himself, as he knows he risked everything to be there. That evening, Glenn attends a fancy dinner and finds Eric there. He pleads again, asking him to give Santiago one more chance, in fair weather this time. Eric hesitates, then agrees. When Glenn gets home, he tells Santiago the good news. The next day, Santiago returns to the training ground, this time ready. He works harder, listens to every instruction, and starts earning the respect of his teammates. During his medical checkup, a nurse named Roz tends to him, and Santiago lies about having asthma, afraid it might end his shot at the team. Soon after, he becomes friends with Jamie, another player at the club, and the two go out that night with Roz and her friend. It's Santiago's first real taste of freedom, a brief moment of fun in a foreign world. The next day at practice, Eric pulls Santiago aside, telling him to stop trying to do everything alone. Newcastle isn't about individual talent, it's about teamwork. That weekend, Newcastle United faces Chelsea. The stadium roars with fans and chants as Santiago and Glenn watch from the stands. On the pitch, Newcastle's star player, Gavin Harris, plays carelessly, more concerned with his image than his performance. After a poor showing, Eric substitutes him, and almost immediately, the team scores and wins the game, a reminder that teamwork, not ego, wins matches. The next morning, Santiago is on the training grounds alone, practicing his shooting long before the team arrives. The coach watches him bending shot after shot into the net. The kid's got discipline, and for the first time, Eric starts to truly see it. Back in Los Angeles, Santiago's grandmother tells Hernan that Santiago made it into Newcastle's reserve squad, but Hernan doesn't react the way she hopes. He sits in silence, his face tight with resentment. He still believes Santiago abandoned the family for a useless dream. Instead of pride, all he feels is anger. Meanwhile, back in England, Santiago runs to tell Roz the good news. He finds her between shifts at the hospital, out of breath but glowing with excitement. When he tells her he's officially on the reserve team, she smiles and congratulates him. A few days later, it's his first real game. In the locker room, he quietly pulls out his inhaler, but one of his jealous teammates notices and steps on it, crushing it under his boot when no one's looking. Soon, the whistle blows, and the game begins. Out on the pitch, things quickly go wrong. The weather's rough, and Santiago's chest starts to tighten. Every breath feels heavier, every sprint more painful. His touches are off, his pass is late. From the sidelines, Eric watches with growing frustration. Eventually, he calls for a substitution, and Santiago walks off the field defeated, gasping for air, drenched in both sweat and disappointment. Later, the assistant coach pulls him aside. He tells Santiago they're letting him go. His performance has been too inconsistent, and the team can't afford to keep someone who's not ready. As the sun sets, he goes to Roz's apartment and tells her the truth, about his asthma, about losing his inhaler, and being dropped from the team. He also tells her he's flying back to America. Roz looks at him with a mix of sadness and disbelief. She can't believe he's giving up so easily after everything he's been through. The moment hangs heavy between them, until he steps closer, and they kiss. Soon after, Santiago gets into a taxi headed for the airport. His dream feels like it's slipping away, just like that ball he left behind years ago. Meanwhile, across town, Gavin wakes up in a random apartment after another wild night. He checks the watch, panics, and rushes out. Desperate to get to training on time, he hails a taxi. By coincidence, the one that stops is the same cab Santiago is in. Gavin jumps in, promising to speak with the coach to give him another chance. When they reach the training ground, Gavin keeps his word. He tells the coach that Santiago wasn't slacking, he'd lost his inhaler, and it wasn't his fault. The coach listens, thinking it over. After a long pause, he decides to give Santiago one last chance. Soon, Santiago is back on the pitch, this time playing for the first team. The moment the whistle blows, he comes alive. His movements are sharper, his pass is cleaner, and when the ball lands at his feet just outside the box, he fires, and scores. The crowd erupts, and Glenn watches proudly from the stands. A few nights later, Santiago starts again, and once more, he scores. This time, there's no doubt. His talent is real, and the Premier League is starting to take notice. A month later, Santiago surprises Roz by inviting her to his new apartment. She's speechless and proud of how far he's come, but there's one catch: Gavin is living there too, crashing with him after losing his starting spot on the team. The next morning, Santiago calls home. His little brother picks up, excited, but when Santiago asks to speak with his father, Hernan refuses. He won't even come to the phone. Santiago's face drops, his father's rejection cutting deep. The following day, Santiago begins training with Newcastle's first team, shoulder to shoulder with legends, including Alan Shearer. He's finally where he always dreamed to be. That weekend, he's on the bench for his first Premier League match. The atmosphere is electric, and midway through the first half, one of Newcastle's players goes down injured. The coach looks over and calls Santiago's name. He takes a deep breath and steps onto the pitch, the roar of the crowd washing over him. Back in Los Angeles, his father sits at a small bar. The TV above the counter is showing the same match. When he looks up, he freezes. It's Santiago playing for Newcastle United. For the first time, pride fills his eyes and he can't stop watching. On the field, Santiago plays with heart and confidence. He earns a penalty for his team, and Gavin takes it, scoring the winning goal. The fans explode in celebration and Santiago smiles, knowing he's made his mark. That night, at a dinner party, David Beckham congratulates Santiago personally for his performance. It's surreal, the kid from Mexico, now being praised by one of football's biggest names. Later, Gavin drags him out to a club to celebrate. The night spirals out of control: drinks, cameras, and chaos. Gavin gets Santiago drunk and pushes him into a group of ladies. The next morning, tabloids plaster Santiago's picture across the front pages, painting him as another reckless rookie. The coach scolds him harshly. Santiago tries to explain, but it's no use, the damage is done. Later, Santiago tries explaining the photos to Roz, but she's furious, saying he disrespected her. That evening, Santiago confronts Gavin. He's angry, not just about the club incident, but about how Gavin wastes his talent. He tells him to take life seriously, or they'll both end up cleaning toilets instead of living their dreams. Gavin shrugs it off, lost in his own ego. Back in Los Angeles, Santiago's younger brother looks around for his father after finishing cutting grass, and finds him lying still on the lawn, as he's suffered a heart attack. When Santiago gets the call from his grandmother, her voice is heavy with grief. His father is gone. Santiago faces an impossible choice: fly back to bury his father or stay and fight for his place in the team. After a long thought, he chooses to stay. He tells his grandmother over the phone, and she understands. She tells him to play, to live his dream, because that's what his father secretly wanted. A few days later, Newcastle faces Liverpool in the final match of the season. The stadium is packed, and tension is running high. Santiago starts the game, knowing what's at stake. Every Newcastle fan in the city watches closely. The whistle blows, and the game explodes into action. Santiago assists Gavin for the opening goal, and the stadium roars. But Liverpool fights back, scoring twice to make it 2-1. Newcastle refuses to give up. In the second half, Santiago again sets up Gavin, who scores to level the game at 2-2, and the crowd goes wild. Soon, in the dying minutes, the ball lands at Santiago's feet. He looks up, sees his chance, and scores. The stadium erupts in chaos and joy as Newcastle secures a long-awaited place in the Champions League. When the final whistle blows, Glenn finds Santiago on the field and hands him a phone. It's his grandmother, calling from LA. Her voice trembles with pride. She tells him his father watched him play on TV before he died, that he was proud of him. Santiago's eyes fill with tears. After everything he's been through, he finally did it. He made his father proud. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more notifications. Until next time. See you soon.